Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm really excited to welcome back to the show longtime KIX bassist Mark Schenker. We'll talk all about the newest re-release, Midnite Dynamite Relit, and we'll also talk about the recent drive-in concert that KIX did in Maryland. It was a lot of fun talking with Mark, and I really appreciate him taking over an hour chatting with me all about everything going on in the world of KIX. If you guys are on Instagram, you should definitely check out his Instagram, Mark Schenker. A lot of great stuff on there that you guys I think will really like. If you're watching or listening to this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. Now, without further ado, let's jump in and get started with my conversation with Mark Schenker. I want to start off, Mark, by thanking you for joining the show again. You were on, I guess, about 6-7 months ago, right at the start of the pandemic. And all I can say is, wow, 2020, what a crazy year this has been, right?
Yeah. Thanks for having me back.
Yes,
First of all, it's a pleasure. And I appreciate you taking the time to reach out and say, hey, let's do this again. That's great. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for coming back.
Our schedule on, we usually play anywhere from 45 to 65 shows a year. And our schedule was pretty packed. And we haven't actually lost more. So everything's gotten rescheduled as it comes up. It's like a domino effect. It's like as you get 6 weeks away from this show, then it goes. That's been the time differential on the calendar. So it's like 6 weeks away from now, is this show going to happen? No. So then we've booked everything for like the identical weekend the following year, and plus we've picked up a couple more gigs too as well. And that will happen. That always happens. But so this year we played. We played a wedding reception, a private wedding reception. We played a guy's house. And,
a cornfield. Steve said this at last week's show.
Yeah.
I was hysterical.
Hysterical. And the gig at the guy's house was awesome. It was, the stage was indoors, and he was a guy that he's got a nice little estate up in what's the name of that town? Up near Towson, Maryland. It's west of Towson, out in the boonies. And I think he made a bunch of money doing drywall or whatever. But anyways, so he has the back of his house built like an old-fashioned saloon. So all the wooden paneling and the hewn wood look, is a beautiful place, and could not have been nicer. I mean, he was just the nicest guy, and he just wanted to throw a party for his friends, and he wanted KIX to play. So it was like, throwback. It's like playing keg parties again, and like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So so that was great, and he was the nicest guy, and his wife was nice, and they were like, and jumping back to the wedding, if I could,
of course,
we didn't actually meet the people that day. They wanted to give us, as much space. The two people who got married, and they had gotten married much earlier, and then this was their reception for their friends. And so they waited until more people could come in to actually throw the thing. And they just left us a nice note on the table in the dressing room saying, hey, this is so-and-so and so-and-so, and I bet this is the weirdest gig you played this year. And, we just want to let you know we appreciate you, coming out of the quarantine to help us celebrate our wedding with our friends and stuff, and just the nicest note. And then we played the Susquehanna Valley Event Center up in Sunbury, PA. So that's about 2.5 hours from here. It's a little bit of a hike for, for me. Those guys live a little closer. And it was the way that they did it is they separated people out by by your ticket price. So you can only have 250 people in a section,
Okay.
and so or at an event. And
Mm-hmm.
so what they did is they did a stripe of 250 social distance in the front,
Mm-hmm.
and then B ticket was another stripe of 250 in the back.
Interesting.
The
Mm-hmm.
C ticket was another stripe of 250 out on the grass in the sort of it's like a mini bowl there, so people
Sure.
could gradually, move their way up and get
Mm-hmm.
able to see the stage. So they were able to get, you know, what's 250 times three? I'm terrible at math.
750.
750.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to get 750 people plus in
Mm-hmm.
there,
Right.
and make it a real kick show and be able to actually afford kicks.
Right.
And then obviously this weekend's drive-in show was last weekend, right? Last weekend,
We
yeah.
could go today, actually. Yep.
Yeah, that was a bang up success. I mean, first of all, the weather was beautiful because the first thing that when I saw the offer come through, the first thing I did was reply immediately and say, "We need heat on stage, or we're not doing it."
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it turned out it was really nice, and they did have some awesome heaters on stage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There was a couple of good spots you could stand in and just get really warm for a second. But as you know, around showtime, it was only 52, 53 degrees, which is nippy,
It's a
but
little
it's
nippy.
not
Mm-hmm.
impossible. You know,
No.
when you get down into the 40s,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes you get a little sluggish,
Mm-hmm.
and plus
Mm-hmm.
your strings as a bass player, you get those big giant pieces of metal
Mm-hmm.
that are your strings, and they get cold, and you start moving around the neck, and then your hand just gets like, it's like old man achy arthritis,
Right.
and you're just not as fluid as you should be,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of clanking around a little bit. But so that was, and they had heated dressing rooms for us. They, excuse me, as you saw, kept everybody had their own space, in between the cars and stuff. Did you bring a lawn chair and sit out, or did you just sit in your car?
I actually leaned on the hood of my car for the whole show
Oh,
and
nice.
watched
Okay.
right from there. And like you said, everybody had their own spot. And I got home and I said to my friends, there was nobody within 20 feet of me. I felt so safe. Everybody had masks on. Even
Everybody
though
had
it was
masks on.
outside. If Steve even saw somebody slightly removing their mask, he was just like, put your mask on, put your mask
Yeah.
on, which I thought was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool of him. But I felt safer at the concert than I do going to the supermarket or anything like that.
Oh,
Because-
yeah.
Yeah, because it was like literally 20 feet away from me was the closest person. Everybody masks. Outside, I'm like, damn, yeah, I would do this again in a heartbeat. I would do it again tomorrow. So-
Yeah, I wish they had figured that out earlier in the summer, so maybe we could have done 2 or 3 there.
Mhm. Absolutely.
But I know that the governor of Maryland made an announcement that day, and that show almost didn't happen.
Yes.
So the people that were running the event were like, "Hey, look, you can't change the rules when we've already sold 380 tickets for 380 times 4,
Right.
because there's these 4 people in every car.
Mhm.
You can't do that to us." And they were like, "Okay," so they actually got a special exemption from Governor Hogan
Mhm.
to go through the weekend. And then unfortunately for them, the Pink Floyd tribute band, The Machine, the band members canceled. They were like, "All right, we're fed up with this. We're not doing it."
Right.
Which sucks for them because they had
Absolutely.
another beautiful day lined up. It was
Mhm.
absolutely gorgeous on Saturday.
It was,
I'm
yeah.
sure it was the whole East Coast was just covered in gorgeous that weekend
It
last
was.
week.
It was. Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately for them, that puts kind of a burden on the promoter, because they had a bluegrass band in there Sunday that is very popular, and it rained a little bit Sunday. It was just a little bit cloudy, not the best weather. It was a little cooler and windy, and so, but they had to leave the entire production set up and not be making any money.
That's
So
nice.
they're skipping a day with all that stuff. So that makes it hard for the guys that run the production company are longtime friends of KIX. They're called Showtime, and they're in Frederick, and they usually do national tours. Back when Rush was playing, I know Showtime used to do all
Right.
their stuff, and so they have their equipment sitting there not making any money for one night because this other band, I'm not believe me, I'm not slagging them because
Hmm.
this is all about
Absolutely.
what you feel is safest for you.
Agreed.
But unfortunately, they have, that jump day where equipment isn't making them any money,
Hmm. Yep.
So I felt
Absolutely.
bad for them and I felt bad for the fans and the promoter has to go through and refund all that money
Hmm.
because it's not like they're going to be able to squeeze another show in before it gets
Right.
too.
Right.
Although today it's 65 degrees where I live.
Yeah. Go
So,
figure. Right. Go
yeah.
figure. No,
Yeah.
it's
So
funny that
I'm
you
about an
mentioned.
hour away from the
Oh,
fairgrounds.
are you
So,
okay? No. So
yeah, yeah.
I was, and I told you this beforehand. I was a 5.5 hour ride to the
Mhm.
place, right? And like you said, there was a little bit of noise. I was watching, the Maryland news online. There was a little bit of noise
Yeah.
about obviously things are spiking up. Will the show happen? Won't. So I checked in the morning. It was on. I get in my car. I drive. I
Hmm.
get to the place and I go to open up my ticket on the phone and I see an email from the place. So I said, oh, let me open it up. And it starts off, the governor decided, and I'm like, oh no, I just
Oh
drove
yeah.
5 hours for nothing. And then I keep reading. It says the show will go on as planned. I'm like, oh, thank you, God.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
totally know it was like one of those like it could go either way type of things. But
Yeah. I have a feeling that the the uh obviously this is that they're those people doing those shows is putting some cranking in the economy a little bit. I
hmm
mean, there's money
hmm
being spent and there's people being happy,
hmm
and so it's in the governor's best interest to keep that economic wheel churning wherever he
hmm
can.
absolutely.
If there's 30 things that are generating revenue for the
Hmm.
state, you
Right,
right?
right,
You
absolutely,
gotta. What are you gonna do? You
absolutely.
can't really cancel it if all these tickets have been sold, and
Yeah.
that would just be bad press for him. But
Right.
as you and I both just said, your safety is up to you. How
Hmm.
close do you feel being comfortable uh, uh, with a how comfortable do you feel close being with other people?
Right. Yep. Yep.
How far away?
Yep.
Did you go to the concession stand and get
I did.
anything to eat or anything?
Yes.
How
No,
close
I didn't get
was it
any
up there?
food. There was some people online. I did walk by though. I did see maybe 8 to 10 people online. People were socially distanced. Now I'm going to say this, Mark. For the last 8 months, I've taken the pandemic enormously serious. Right. Some of my family members have pre-existing conditions. I've been forced to take it very serious to the point that my family, not a single friend, has been in my house for 8 months.
Oh
I
wow.
haven't hugged my mother. I haven't kissed my
Oh.
mother. Okay, so when I said I was going to a concert, my friends all looked at me like, "Are you nuts? You won't give your mother a hug, but you're going to a concert?" And I said, "Well, if I don't feel it's safe, I'll sit in my car the whole night because
Yeah.
at least I have that option." So
Yes.
I said it's in my control. But
Hmm.
I actually stood outside my car the whole night because I felt it was that safe. I walked around on the grounds. I looked at the concessions. I actually purchased a few things at the merch stand because
Oh,
I,
great.
I
Thank you
felt,
for that.
yes, I felt it was that safe. And I
Hmm.
came home and I told my friends, look, you guys, all my friends, you know how serious I'm taking this. And if there's a band there that you want to see, do it because you will not feel unsafe. And that's what I felt like that night. I really did.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
from somebody who takes it very, very, very serious, probably more than most.
Yeah. I've been taking it serious too. I actually volunteered for the Moderna vaccine study.
Hmm.
So, but there's no way, there's no way to, it's a double blind, so there's no way to know whether I got a
Right.
placebo or
Right.
whether I got the actual thing. So apparently that's Moderna and Pfizer are within days of announcing,
Yep.
their FDA approval or getting
Yep.
FDA approval for EUA. But so, I take it seriously too. We have,
Hmm.
well, luckily the county I live in, it's Loudoun County. It's the richest county in the United States,
Okay.
and it's what people that live here are well educated, and they're not anti-mask.
Hmm.
They're I haven't seen anybody out and about without a mask on. I see people driving with masks on,
Same here.
and so. But my mother is, she's by herself up in Gettysburg, and so I have to take the risk with her to be able to take care of her. And since my father passed last year, I have to go there. I can't
Hmm.
not go there. And
Hmm.
and there are other friends up there that help take care of her and stuff. But I need to. And my mother only has one lung too. She had she had cancer years ago and had her lung removed, and then she had 2 heart attacks about 4 or 5 years ago. So if she gets COVID, it's curtains.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so we always wear a mask, and she's so sick of it because she's
Of
just
course.
like, she's by herself. She was with my dad for almost 60 years,
Mm.
and now she's with the dog watching you know reruns of Murder She Wrote or whatever.
Right. Oh man, that's got to be tough. That's got to be
Yeah,
tough.
it's tough, but so I like understand
Hmm.
the how easily this thing can get transmitted, and
Hmm.
I don't think it's a government conspiracy, and I don't
Right.
think
Me neither.
it's a um it's I think the science is pretty obvious, don't you? You wear a mask,
Hmm.
everybody else wears a mask. It's hard to get sick.
Hmm.
Wear a mask.
Hmm.
Just wear a mask. It's
That's it.
no big deal.
Hmm.
Just do it. Do it for others, if not for you, because you can't know that you're infected for 14 days. I've already
Absolutely.
had a COVID test, and
Hmm.
because I had a one day I woke up with a fever of 101,
Mm.
and I was like, oh shit, here we
Right. Here
go.
we go. Right. Uh-huh.
And so I went the next day and got a COVID test, but my fever had gone down the next day, and I just had sinus infection. I knew
Right.
what it was after it had developed a little bit more, and I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, I know what the fuck this is. I
Right.
don't have
Right.
to worry about it.
Right. Right.
So, but yeah, and actually we still go to our gym, and our gym,
Mm.
I'm a jujitsu practitioner, and so we
Hmm.
have um, everything spaced out in the gym, and you can only spar with a family member or somebody that that you trust. So there's a couple of people there and we have a circle of people that we fight with that
Right.
we
Okay.
don't mind getting close to because we know that they're
Right.
um,
You know what they're
that
doing day to day.
well, they're sitting in front of a computer. They're working remote. They're
Okay.
not out doing sales calls,
Right.
or whatever it is that they do. Their exposure to other people is as limited as ours is.
Sure.
So,
Makes sense.
so we feel comfortable, doing jujitsu, sweating in
Hmm.
each other's mouth,
Right. Right.
elbowing each other in the face.
Right.
That
Exactly.
kind of thing. So,
Exactly.
so we do get to go to the gym, and it's a very, very safe environment as much as a gym can be. People that are doing CrossFit, they're all wearing masks and they're
Hmm.
all huffing and puffing through their masks and stuff.
Hmm. Right. Right.
So in my area, most I can just say that everybody in my county is doing everything right, and
Hmm.
it's really nice to see that people aren't just out there going, oh, mask is a farce or whatever, and it's
Hmm.
like, no, no, the science is very simple, you
Agreed.
know.
Agreed. Yep.
So
Yep. Absolutely. Now, going back to the show last week for a moment, was it weird for you guys on stage looking out at the crowd and seeing like all these cars, and at the end of a song you hear all these cars, car honking? That had to be weird for the bands, I would think.
Well, funny thing is, so I didn't actually hear car honking, but
Okay.
maybe once or twice. But remember, we all have in-ear monitors
Sure.
in that
Hmm.
totally occlude our ear canal. So
Okay.
it's even difficult to talk to each other,
Hmm. Okay.
with them on. You kind of have
Sure.
to yell at each other on
Yeah.
stage if something's going on. So
Okay.
it's hard to hear, what the real feedback from the people were. But I did
Gotcha.
hear the car horns a couple of times,
Hmm.
and for me, when I take my glasses off, I'm blind as a bat. So I can
Okay.
only see, you know, maybe in a normal crowd, I can only make out faces 10 or 15 people into a
Sure.
crowd.
Okay.
Unless I see somebody I know and I know their body shape from far away.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that's my friend Rich over there.
Right. Right.
But so that being said, the cars were far enough away where all I could tell was um, it was people that had masks on and then cars. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because
Sure.
the masks, a lot of people were, wearing colorful masks and stuff.
Hmm. Right.
It's
Right.
like,
Right.
okay,
Hmm.
this is good. This is all good.
Hmm.
So, but looking out on the first couple rows of cars, which I can actually see with my poor eyesight,
Uh huh.
um, um, the uh, it was strange because we had never done that before, and we had seen videos of other artists that have been doing drive-in shows,
Hmm.
and we just thought, wow, that must be really weird, and it sure was, and
Hmm.
uh, it was, you know what though, it was weird, but we just go up there and do the same thing we always do.
Hmm.
I think that I don't know if you noticed, but one thing we did do is we skipped the sing-alongs, and
Yep. I was going to ask you about
because
that.
it
Yep.
was like because we didn't know how that
I
would
was
go.
waiting for it in cold blood, and I'm waiting
Yeah,
for the
in cold
drop
blood.
down. I'm like, it's not there tonight. What
Yeah,
happened?
yeah, and we were just like, do we do those
Hmm.
and try to do the sing-alongs and you know crickets,
Right.
because most people were in their cars. We didn't know how cold it was going to be.
Sure.
We had an idea, but
Hmm.
it was just like let's not make ourselves look like fools and do a sing along with a bunch
Hmm.
of people who can't sing because they're in their cars.
Right.
So we just decided to skip that. In the itch too, there's a little sing
Right.
along.
Hmm. Yep.
So so yeah, it was that was really the only thing we changed about the show, just because we didn't want. Well, Steve mostly didn't. He was like, I'm not going to go up there and try to get these people to sing in their cars.
Right.
That's just silly.
Right.
You know. So so that was Steve's call on that. That's
Hmm.
that's his gig. So
Right.
whatever. We were
Right.
just like, yeah, I'll just keep going. So
Absolutely.
um so that was the only thing we made changes we made to the show itself.
Hmm.
Um but overall, I wish we could play one every month through the
Yeah.
winter. That would be awesome
It
because
would
it was
be. It would
good.
be. No, I said to my friends afterwards, I said, when I was watching the band and just watching the band that night, it was like any other concert. Like you said, you guys were up there doing your thing just like it was
Mhm.
any other show. It was only when the song ended and I'd hear the cars honk and I'd look around and you'd see hundreds of cars and you realize, wait, this is, I'm not in a club. I'm not in a theater or
Yeah.
something like that. I'm in a drive-in. This is weird. But while you were watching the band, it
Mhm.
was, it could have been any other year, any other concert. It was just locked in like it was any other great rock show.
Yeah. Yeah. We started to get excited. We would jump out of the dressing room and go watch and see how car. It just so happens that the way the thing was laid out, that the entrance, all the cars had to ride by the dressing room area, and so
Okay.
we would just go out there and kind of look and
Right.
see. Wow, there's actually a lot of cars here
There was,
already.
yeah,
When
there
it when
was.
it was still light out and you could see a little
Mm-hmm.
bit,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
getting near dusk when cars started coming in.
Yep. Yep.
So, but yeah, man, what an experience that was. I mean, that was um, that was one for the ages for sure for us. I mean, uh, maybe what will happen is that we get this vaccine going for the general public in February, March, April, and then when in those cool months, maybe we'll do a couple of drive-in shows
I hope
there,
so. Hmm.
and then we'll be able to ramp up into our regular schedule and start tearing ass around the country again on
Nice.
our favorite airline, Southwest, again.
There
So
you go. Nice.
uh,
One of the things I have to ask you about the set list that night, I know when you guys were performing, Steve goes, here's a song off of an album that made us a couple of $100 and it was show business, which I happen to love that album. I got it when it first came out. He's like, we actually like a couple of songs on it, and you guys did Baby Time Bomb, right? So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
was there any other songs that you guys ever consider from that album doing? Because there's a few on there I love.
You know, I didn't like that record.
Okay.
I thought Baby Time Bomb was an okay song.
Hmm.
Um, for me, particularly, it's probably the most boring bass part
Okay.
of any KIX song. But that being said, that song right there calls for that kind of bass part. But
Okay.
I'm not that kind of bass player.
Right.
I'm
Makes sense.
I'm in a Rush tribute band, so I play like Geddy Lee and John
Right.
Entwistle
Right. Of course.
all over
Right.
stuff,
Hmm. Hmm. Yep.
So, which I wouldn't mind talking about my Rush tribute band, by the way, if we have
Absolutely.
time.
100%. Yes.
Um, and so, so it's hard for me to play that song and enjoy it, but I like singing the choruses and
Okay.
I like I like that part of it, but I'm not an A rider. I'm not just
Hmm.
sit there and ride E.
That
I
makes
have to
sense.
make up
Hmm.
some riff or so that one's not my favorite. But I think what song is brilliant off that record is 911.
Hmm.
And there's two reasons we don't play it. Steve doesn't really care for it.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know why. I don't know what he has
That
against
hurts
it, but
me. That hurts me. I
yeah,
love that song.
that is the best song on the
Hmm.
record for
Hmm.
me. It's a great song, really good song.
Hmm.
And the other problem is there was in order to play that guitar riff, they had to use some sort of alternate tuning, and both guys would have to bring a whole nother guitar
Gotcha.
just to play that song,
Okay.
you know. And it's not even like drop D or something. It was just like I forget. I don't remember. Don't quote me on anything on there.
Mm-hmm.
But know that it's not a common. There are common alternate tunings.
Mm-hmm.
Dad Gad and
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. But it wasn't a common one. It was like tune this string and tune that string so we can play these strings open or something like that. I forget.
Okay. Okay.
So that one's, as much as anybody would like to play that song, that would be, it'd be hard for Ronnie and Brian to bring,
Mm-hmm.
extra guitars, particularly
Just for
when
one
we
song.
fly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
Because we all only travel with 2 guitars when we fly, but
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie usually brings 3 when there's local, and Brian will bring 3 when we're playing local.
Right. Okay.
Local meaning within a 5-6 hour drive of where we
Right.
are.
That makes
We
sense.
consider that local.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. That makes
Anytime
sense.
we don't have to get on a plane,
It's local. Right. Right. The one I would have lobbied for was Book to Hypnotize, which I saw the band do in the '80s, and
We do.
oddly, it's an outtake of Midnight Dynamite, which is just released.
Yes. So, and the only reason I know that is
Mm-hmm.
because I saw, while I was going through the demo tapes
Mm-hmm.
for the Midnight Dynamite Relit,
Mm-hmm.
I saw that song. There's a couple of songs that it was clear because I put all the 2-track demos in order
Mm-hmm.
of dates, so I could actually sort of wrap my brain around what was there, what wasn't there, what was
Mm-hmm.
missing. And so I have demos of the Itch. I have demos of some of the early stuff on the earlier records.
Mm-hmm.
Not many from Cool Kids, which the band, most of the songs on Cool Kids came from outside the band anyways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I do have a demo of Restless Blood though.
Okay.
And I think of Mighty Mouth too.
Mm-hmm.
So the Book to Hypnotize was one that kept showing up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like one of those songs that they kept working on and working
Mm-hmm.
on and working on and working on, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like to me, for the way I write songs and just my workflow is if I work on something a couple of times and it's still a turd,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna let that one go
Mm-hmm. Right.
and just leave it on the hard drive, and maybe I'll steal a bridge from it or something,
Right.
or steal a melody, but
Mm-hmm.
I won't just keep hammering on it because it's like I keep working on it for a reason. It's no good.
Okay.
So something keeps bothering me about it, and I have to fix it or just push it out of my brain and work on something else. And as we say in songwriting, you have to shit out 5 bad songs before
To find the
you
one good one. Right. Okay.
So I have no problem letting go of my little babies like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just funny. There's a couple other songs, and there was a song called Bad Wolf.
Yep.
They kept coming up and coming up and coming up, and those guys, they just laugh.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we worked on that song so long, and just Donnie would not give up on it, and it never ended up being on a KIX record.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. It was just it's funny to hear them talk about that stuff. But I think I love 911. I think it's got a great melody. It's got a great guitar part, but it's just the mechanics of the tuning make it tough for us to play.
Makes sense.
And Book to Hypnotize, we have played.
Right.
And
Yep.
and I'll tell you that we were playing it at Ram's Head one time, and it's not my favorite song,
Okay.
but we played it, and it's the only time that I ever heard anybody in the audience boo KIX from the stage.
Really? Wow.
I heard like that we played it, and and here's the thing that made Book to Hypnotize work back in the day, because I've seen VHS videos of them using that.
Mm-hmm.
They would all dress up in green and green,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
passes, and
Mm-hmm.
there was a stage set for it, and
Mm-hmm.
Steve changed his outfit. So that helps sell the song visually.
Okay.
But if you're just up there playing, wearing the same clothes, same lighting as you're
Mm-hmm.
using Full Blood,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to sell Book to Hypnotize. Book to Hypnotize is the one that's on Show Business, right?
Yes, it is. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because Cold Chills was another one that doesn't go down very well.
Okay.
So we finished the song, and there's hardly any noise from the crowd, and I hear a
Interesting.
couple people over here going, "Boo," you know, and I'm
Wow.
just like, and I get it, they think, why are you wasting a valuable slot in a kick show
Right.
on a song that we don't like.
Interesting.
So it's like, but you can't please
Of
everybody,
course not. Absolutely.
and everybody's not going to like every song. And the reason we do that is because you see other bands out there on the circuit, and I won't name any, they've been playing the same set list for years.
Yes.
And we change our set list, we change our set list religiously because we don't want you guys, the fans, to pay to see the same fucking thing every
Yep.
time.
Agreed.
Now, granted, we have, 7 or 8 songs, which is a good part of the set list that we have to play, otherwise we'll get flogged.
Of course.
So we have to, we sort of have to, keep that, revolve all the other songs around the core songs.
Sure.
So we can't not play Cold Blood. We can't not
Right.
play Close Your Eyes, things like that. So, but we try to pull those, we just put 2 songs back in from Rock Your Face Off that we hadn't played in a while. And then, what else we put in there? We'll probably put some more songs from Midnight Dynamite in there because since we're doing the relit. So maybe we'll finally play Scarlet Fever.
That would be great.
Yeah, that would be great too. So,
Any chance that Steve would do Walking Away? I'm guessing that's a little bit of a tougher song for him to sing at this point.
no, it's not a matter of him singing it. What it is, and this is interesting that I think about a couple years ago, Jimmy and I wanted to do Walking Away, and for my Rush tribute band, Sundogs, I have to figure out all the synthesizers that Geddy Lee uses for each song because I can't just download them somewhere. So I have to recreate those sounds, those iconic sounds in my keyboard rig or with samplers or whatever I can do to make that sound happen. And I can get it really, really close. It's everything that I do in that arena is super, super close. And I've gotten really good at programming synthesizers. But the stuff that Bo did on Walking Away it's just, it would take me so long. And so I said to Jimmy, why don't we just try to get the master tape just for Walking Away, and we can get Bo to do a remix of Walking Away, and we can also pull all the synthesizers off and just put them in a backing track like we do. Because obviously we play Don't Close Your Eyes to a backing track. It's just piano and that I actually played.
Okay.
And so one of us is actually playing it. It's just a sequence. Right.
Okay.
So because we just don't, just bringing a piano on stage for one song would be just stupid. So our plan was to do the same thing with Walking Away. We'll just, start the intro track and we'll just play it to track. No big deal. People play it to track all the time. Even Rush plays to track on a bunch of songs.
Right.
But then the guys kind of lost interest in doing Walking Away. And I think that, but now we have all the synthesizer tracks. So if we want to do it this time, there are no obstacles to it. So I would like to do it. Jimmy would like to do it.
Okay.
We haven't talked about what songs to do yet. I would love to play Scarlet Fever, Crybaby, Walking Away, every other song on that record that we haven't played yet. I love all the songs. That's my favorite KIX record. So I'm more excited about this one than Fuse 30 because this is my favorite KIX record.
So, but now the band won't do like full album shows like they did for Blow My Fuse. That's not the plan right now.
We might.
Awesome.
We'd have to put Cold Shower back in the set, which is you want to talk about a song that's hard for Steve. And he doesn't really enjoy that because it's he's got to work hard at it to get that, to sing that high note because he's not going to do anything, use a backing track for his vocal or whatever. He won't do it. He won't do it.
Good. That makes me happy.
But last time Cold Shower was in the set, he was doing it great. He just hadn't done it. It's been more than a year
Mm-hmm.
maybe two since we played Cold Shower,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think we played Cold Shower during the whole Fuse 30 thing.
Right. Okay.
So, so if he can do it, great. And if he, it's not if he can do it, it's like if he
If he
wants to do
wants to
it,
do it. Mm-hmm.
because his idea is, he has to get it right every single night,
Mm-hmm.
or there's no point.
Right.
And it has to be great, not
Right.
just okay.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Right.
So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe. I mean, like I said, he's never had any problem in the past. I don't
Mm-hmm.
see why. Um, he's not losing his voice. He's in
Mm-hmm.
tip-top shape.
Mm-hmm.
He's Steve is Steve, man. He's the Energizer Bunny, Steve Austin. You know?
Yes. Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, it won't surprise me if we. It'd be nice if we could do that. That was fun to do the whole record.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I personally had never been, I wasn't a part of the original record, but it was fun for me as a KIX fan to play that record front to back.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember, putting that cassette in my Ford Pinto station wagon,
Mm-hmm.
because I could put Marshall amps in the back of the wagon,
Okay.
and, cracking a beer, because back then you could crack a beer and drive around and you really
Sure.
wouldn't,
Right.
and riding around listening to that album in that exact order. And so it
Mm-hmm.
was really a special thing for me to do that. So hopefully we'll do that again with Midnight Dynamite. I don't know. We'll see.
Awesome. Now, was the album remixed for this new release?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Talk about
So,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So that came from, Bo and I are real good friends.
Mm-hmm.
I was just down at his house right before the pandemic hit, and I'm probably going to go down there in about 2 weeks just to visit him and his wife. So we see each other several times a year, and we're scuba buddies. Bo's a diver,
Mm-hmm.
so we've
Oh, okay.
gone diving together,
Mm-hmm.
and done a bunch of other things. And he's just a great guy. Um, so we were in Houston a couple years ago after Fuse, I think right when Fuse 30 was ready to come out, and Bo was like, "Hey, We were sitting in the hotel bar. He had ridden up from Austin, his home in Austin, to visit the band
Mm-hmm.
and hang out in Houston. And we were at the hotel bar, and he said, we were bullshitting for about an hour or two, and finally he said, "Hey guys, I got a crazy idea." He was like, "I want the chance to beat Midnight Dynamite." And we were like, "What? Are you crazy? That album sounds great." He was like, "I think I can beat it." We were like, no way, man. Come on. That album is just perfect in every way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "I think I can beat it."
Mm-hmm.
And so we were like, "Okay, let's see what happens." And then of course, when the time came around, for the 35th anniversary, I just called him and told him that, "Hey, I'm going to send this, I'm getting these tapes digitized and I'm going to send them to you."
Mm-hmm.
And, for him, it was, Fuse wasn't his record, so all the notes that are in the 24 track tape boxes,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't his.
Right.
But in this one, everything was his.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that was recorded was his.
Mm-hmm.
He did. Though actually, that's not true. The only thing he didn't do was "Sex" and "Lie Like a Rug,"
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and those were the two that Anton Fig played on.
Yep. Yep. I was going to ask you
And,
about that. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so they, I think Bill Dooley produced those two. I forget.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me on that. It's on the credits on the record. If
Right.
you really want to go look it up,
Mm-hmm.
really want to know, go look it up.
Mm-hmm.
So they did those two songs with Anton, and I had gotten Bo all of the paperwork that came with it, and
Mm-hmm.
he was going through it like a little kid. I mean, just daily phone calls. You won't believe what I found.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the way he described it is he had looking back on his work, he was like, "Oh my God, I forgot I did that. I was such a fucking genius." And then moments later, he would find something completely boneheaded that he did, and he
Oh
was
man.
like, "What the fuck was I thinking?"
Mm-hmm.
And so he had these extreme swings of
Right.
euphoria and breaking his arm, patting himself on the back,
Mm-hmm.
to using that same arm to punch himself in the face.
Do you remember something that he didn't like on it? Something specific?
Well, I'll tell you something that he did like. I think what he didn't like is part of the, if he had on a vocal track, if there were 5 seconds in between vocal lines where he could put some ear candy, he would do it.
Okay.
Because you were running out of real estate. You only have so much tape real estate.
Right.
And so he had a lot of tracks that had 10 things on them, which is no.
Right.
And, but he had so much creative output on that record that he needed places to put these things. So, and then he was really excited about the intro to Crybaby that he had created on his Fairlight organ, which still sits in his Pro Tools studio today. I'm like, hey, why don't you get rid of that thing and get it still runs floppy disks. He still has a box of floppies,
Oh man, wow.
I'm like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, that is 1985. So 1985.
Yeah, but interestingly enough, we did. He was. I helped him get it working within his Pro Tools rig now, so he's still using his Fairlight organ in his.
That's so funny.
So he had those, nostalgic moments and his Elvis moments and his head moments and going through all his notes and things, and so he was very, very excited to do that, just to get, just to see himself as a younger him and compare and contrast what he's learned about sitting behind the mixing desk the last 35 years.
Interesting.
So, so for him it was quite a journey, and I think he told me one day something to the effect of, I've had these Pro Tools projects for 3 days. I haven't seen my wife. I haven't eaten. I haven't fed the cats. I haven't been to the gym. I haven't done anything.
No, that's great. That's great.
He's just dying on the mixing board, basically.
That's hilarious. You mentioned before Anton on Light Like a Rug and Sex, right? So do you know, is Jimmy on the demos that are on the re-release?
Oh yeah, he's on the demos. Okay. And actually Jimmy's on the re-release too, because
so they redid the drums.
One of the things Yes, we did. Awesome. Yes, we did. Just on those 2 songs. And one of the things that was an issue with Midnight Dynamite was Scarlet Fever. And that was Ronnie's song to do a solo on. And Bo felt that it wasn't going well. And so he had given Brian a tape to go home to the hotel that night, come back the next day, and record and try to record a solo, to try to come up with something. And Brian did that, and he came back the next day. The studio door was locked, and Bo and Donnie and Mike Slamer were in there doing the solo on Scarlet Fever, because he could hear it through the door, And he was, he was not happy about that. It's anytime you bring in a hired gun to replace a band member, it usually doesn't go over well.
Sure.
And so, as you may or may not know, Mike Slamer played all the solos on the first Warrant record.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, so he's Bo's guy,
Gotcha, okay.
And so, and credit to the Warrant guys, apparently the story goes that I've heard from Bo is that they were like, yeah, sure, this is great. I mean, and then not only that, but they went up to New York to learn the solos from Mike, and they both of those guys took lessons from Mike for some time after that. So,
okay.
They were both really open and really, didn't really have an attitude. And Brian didn't have an attitude either. I don't want to mistakenly portray his feelings about that, but it was just like, hey, and then there was always conflict with Donnie. And so I think that Brian's less than happy feelings about Scarlet Fever may be directed that way as well.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, when KIX would play that song live after Midnight Dynamite came out, Ronnie went up and learned the solo from Mike Slamer, and he played it on that Pink Jackson that he had. That Pink Jackson, but Ronnie had to buy specifically for Scarlet Fever, because Ronnie didn't own another guitar with a whammy bar on it.
Oh, okay.
And so And then Ronnie said, as soon as we quit playing Scarlet Fever, he sold the
He
guitar as
sold
quickly as he could. You know?
Uh-huh.
So if you see Ronnie with that pink Jackson in those pictures, that's what he was
That's what
using
he's playing.
for.
That's cool.
And so, Brian always said, well, I'll play a solo, but I'm not playing that solo, So Bo said, hey, look, this is the time to make anything right and to rectify any bad feelings you guys have about this.
That's cool.
And so Ronnie went into the studio with Brad Divins, who was actually the guitar player on Cool Kids, and went on to do Rat Child America. And right now, Brad is actually front of house for Enrique Iglesias.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he's running sound in arenas and soccer stadiums all over the world.
All right, didn't realize that.
And
Nice.
so Brad has a great studio in his house, and he recorded Ronnie's solo, sent it back down to Bo. Bo threw it in the song. No more bad feelings about that song. And so Jimmy didn't play on Rug and Sex because he was having an issue with a pinched nerve in his neck. And so Jimmy's told me this story a couple of times, that he would have trouble holding on to the stick, and they would just fly out of his hands in the middle of the show, which was not good.
Sure.
And so he'd just have to, grab another stick and keep going. But it was happening more and more frequently. And there was a tour scheduled right after the last day, or gig scheduled right after the last day in the studio with Midnight Dynamite. And so Jimmy had to have a recovery period, and that window couldn't move beyond that first gig.
Gotcha.
So Bo and Jimmy worked fast and furious, and they could not get the drum track done in time, the 2 drum tracks done in time. And so Bo played in a band with Anton. I can't remember the name of the band. And he played in maybe it was Airborne. I can't remember.
Was this in the 70s, the 80s? Yeah.
It was in the late 70s.
Was it Spider? I
80s.
think Anton was in a band Spider. I don't know.
Maybe I think it was Spider. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. And so, and also Holly, who's the famous songwriter? Holly Knight was in that band.
Yep.
And so Bo knew, Anton from there. And this was before Anton got the Dave Letterman gig, which he got almost directly after playing on Midnight Dynamite. Like he played on Midnight Dynamite, started on the Letterman show 2 weeks later or something, and then of course he never left. The greatest
exactly.
gig of all,
Exactly. Yep.
So that was the thing. And supposedly, Anton, to his pro credit, I've never met Anton. Unfortunately, I'd love to meet him someday, but supposedly he just went in and listened to the songs once or twice and wrote out a drum notation cheat sheet and nailed it in 1 or 2 takes on each song. And so, Jimmy's been playing those songs for 35 years. And so he went into a local studio with our mixing engineer, Scott Spellbring, that mixed Rocket Face Off.
Okay.
And so he went in and recorded drums with Scott, sent him to Bo. Bo put him in the project. You can't even tell that the sound sonically, you can tell the drums sound a little bit different, but for the most part, it's a Bo Hill mix. You're not going to get a wide, he's not irresponsible enough in mixing to lose the continuity of the sound of the record with a new drum track. So the goal at that point is now we have a Midnight Dynamite release that has been remixed from the original 24-track recordings, multi-track recordings, and all the guys in KIX played on the record. Right. Not KIX and some other
guys. Right. Nice.
So now it feels like the universe has been set right, and I'm really happy to play a pivotal role in that, making that happen. So
absolutely. No, that's very, to me, that makes buying the album worth it just for those things alone. Now, one of the things I had read, and I don't know if this is true, is that Mike Slammer had also done guitar parts, not the solo, but guitar parts during Walk Away. Is that true? Do you know anything about that?
So there's a couple of, if you listen to he did guitar fills. Right. So there's and you can hear him, and they're on the fade out. Okay. Right. And so, and I asked Brian, I said, hey, do you want, and nobody cared about those. It was just leave them. They're just licks, just real fast fade out licks. And they're kind of in the background. and nobody cared about
Right.
that. You
Like
know, it was
all
just
the
like
major
whatever.
parts were changed out with the proper members.
Well, yeah, and walking away, Mike didn't play any major parts on
Right.
it. It was just
Right.
no big deal. It's just
Right.
like let your friend play a lick on the record.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, nobody cared about walking away. It was Scarlet Fever was the big
Was
sticking
the big
point.
one. Makes
So
sense. Makes sense. Now, before you were talking about going through the demos, and I've since the '80s, I've always been a big bootleg collector, right? So I've heard,
okay.
okay, I've heard some of the demos over through the years. I'm sure these sound 1,000% better. But you mentioned some of those unreleased songs, right? Was there ever any talk of putting some of those unreleased songs on a project like this, or is there a reason you can't?
There is a reason we can't. Donnie Purnell wrote those songs.
Mm-hmm.
We don't own those songs, and they were never released.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that if I was a songwriter and I had a bunch of unreleased songs and somebody put them out, I don't think I would be too happy
Yep.
because they are the songs that either I thought sucked and weren't worth hearing,
Mm-hmm.
or they're unfinished in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would want to be my own gatekeeper on that, and I don't think that I would feel comfortable doing that to Donnie, to take his material and just put it out there for the sake of having and there is, listen, those demos are out there,
Mm-hmm.
but they're I think there's a CD out there called Thunderground that
Yep.
has all the demos on it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they're out there, and they're you can find them if you want to, but I don't think you'll ever find them officially from KIX. I wouldn't feel good doing that. I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me, and I would not do that to Donnie Purnell.
No, I think that's really cool. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. Like you said, he's the songwriter. So to me, that's a great answer. I love that. Now, there was two of the songs that were on the album that I guess you couldn't find demos for. And I've seen you quotes for you looked high and low, up and down, but two of the songs you just couldn't find demos for, right?
Yeah, the funny thing is so Bang Bang was one of the ones I couldn't find a demo for, and most people don't know that was Kip Winger's first writing credit,
Yep.
first official songwriting credit.
Mm-hmm.
And Kip was, I think Kip and Bo had gone to University of Colorado together for a year or something. They got to know each other in Colorado when Bo was working at a studio there. And I think once Bo started taking off with Rat, he kind of brought Kip with him, and they were in a partnership to get Kip signed and get him a band built around him of some kind. And I don't know the details. Actually, I do know the details from Bo, but I'm not at liberty to talk about it.
Fair enough.
So, but Kip is Bo would always say things like, Kip can pick up a stick off of the sidewalk and make music out of it, and it will be killer.
Mm-hmm.
Bo's like, he's that talented. He's just an amazing musician, and an amazing, just one of those guys that just has it every time. He hits it out of the park every time, And so, so that song was never demoed unless Kip demoed it, which we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I gave those cassettes back to Brian. I had a stack of cassettes that Brian had given me that had a bunch of KIX demos on it.
Okay.
And I was going to go through and pick the best versions.
Mm-hmm.
And the cassettes all still played, by the way. And I still have a cassette player, a double cassette player that actually still works.
I've got one about 5 feet to my right over here.
Yeah, mine's right under my
That's so funny.
right under my studio desk here. It's up in the top, and it was very dusty, but it does work.
Yeah.
So there was a tape that Brian had given me that just made my heart pound, and it had Brian or somebody had written Kid Winger, right? So meaning that they probably didn't really know what was a Kip or Kid.
Right.
Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kid Winger.
Kid Winger.
Nah, it's got to be Kid Winger.
Yeah.
So somebody had written Kid Winger on the cassette, crossed it out, and wrote Laying Rubber down next. And so instead of Bang Bang, there were 4 mixes of Laying Rubber on there from a demo.
Oh,
and I was
wow.
just like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. That was
Right,
my only chance.
right.
Yeah, and who knows if Kip has a copy. I
Right.
probably could have reached out to him. I have his contact info. I talk to him now
Mm-hmm.
and then.
Mm-hmm.
We play shows with them, and he's super nice to me.
Mm-hmm.
I probably could have reached out, but I just probably not a good idea.
Right.
Um, but I would have loved to have that, and I
Mm-hmm.
would have also loved to have uh, Walking Away. There
Mm-hmm.
was and so since I couldn't find Walking Away, I put an early album mix on there
Mm-hmm.
that Bo had done. Sounds different. It's more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Not more interesting than the original, but interesting to hear
Mm-hmm.
the with everything dialed back and what Bo was working towards with the earlier version of Walking Away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I put that on there, and Scarlet Fever was non-existent. And the guys say that they don't think they ever demoed Scarlet Fever at their studios in Hagerstown. They probably demoed, they probably recorded it and wrote it in the studio, and so that's why there's no demo. I mean, there's nothing, there's not even a sniff of Scarlet Fever on any of these. I probably have 100 tapes,
Wow.
and there's not anything on there. And believe me, I looked through
Oh, I'm sure
every,
you did.
you know, painstakingly.
Absolutely.
So regrettably, Scarlet Fever, there's no demo for that,
Mm-hmm.
and there's demo. It's funny because all the pictures in the packages that we got from Atlantic Studios, they're where they keep their tapes in
Mm-hmm.
Burbank.
Mm-hmm.
They take photos of all the reels, and the reels all had written on them in red magic marker, Kip song.
Okay.
So it may not have even had a title that
Mm-hmm.
they worked on yet. So they had worked on that
Oh,
song
wow.
in the studio, and they didn't put Bang Bang on it. There's
Mm-hmm.
Bang Bang wasn't written anywhere. It just
Right.
says Kip song.
Kip song. Right.
All the track sheets say Kip's song.
Right. Right.
So yeah, regrettably, I would have loved to hear a demo of Scarlet Fever. I would have loved to hear Kip's original demo of Bang Bang and Walking Away. With all of the junk that's on Walking Away, all the keyboards
Mm-hmm.
and that you can't demo that with
Right.
an 8-track studio. You need to build that in the studio with all those
Absolutely.
different parts and stuff. And Bo said he remembers doing that, in the studio quite a bit. So
Right. Right.
those 3 songs are not, KIX 8-track demos from the basement, but
Mm-hmm.
they're, like I said, Scarlet Fever's just not there, and neither is Kip's song, unfortunately.
Right. Right. Well, to
But
me,
the other stuff's great.
I was gonna say having the re-recorded drums on a couple of songs, the add guitar part, and 7 demos and 1 early version makes the whole
Yeah.
package very worth it in my book.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I wanted it to be perfect and get those demos of those songs, but I think that it just wasn't meant to be. They just don't exist. They're
Right.
just not there. Nobody,
You can't put out
Brian,
something that doesn't exist. I've
Yeah.
heard Brian say Bang Bang. Kip only gave them like it was a guitar riff, and that was it. There was no demo. It was just a guitar riff on a tape. So you
Yeah.
can't produce something that just didn't exist.
right. So well,
Have you guys ever thought of doing like a double colored vinyl? I know vinyl's all the rage again these days. Have you ever thought of putting these out on vinyl?
we might do that. Vinyl is. I don't know a lot about vinyl, but what I hear from our manager is that it's you kind of have to get in line for it because there's not as many vinyl manufacturers as there used to be.
Right.
So you have to plan really far ahead. Like when's record store day in April or something like that?
Yeah, it's usually like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we would have to start working on that this month to get it in. And I think what I really wanted to do with Blow My Fuse was my original vision is to have a double vinyl with one side of the vinyl blue and the other side, the demo side, being a white disc.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
Yeah, that would have looked so cool.
That is, yeah.
But I think the white vinyl was like outrageous, like $10 a disc or some
Oh,
shit.
wow. Mm-hmm.
It's just because of the coloring, because it's just not easy to get. Certain colors are simple, certain colors are not. And the primary colors, of course, are easy.
Right.
But then when you have to start mixing colors, you have to start paying extra and a lot extra for that.
Okay.
So we may do that with Dynamite. I'd love to get one side purple and one side gray, match the logo on the front. So that would be really, really cool to open that up and pull out a purple album, man. That would be awesome.
That would be. I agree.
So we're going to try. We're looking at it. So yeah,
cool.
the answer to your question is yes, we're going to try. We're going to look at it. So we'll see.
Awesome. And I know some fans are saying that the actual physical CDs won't be available. It sounds like they're getting emails until like mid-December. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I think it's because this time of year everybody's jammed up, right? Everybody's trying to get.
And there's this little pandemic thing still going on. So
yeah, so it does make it a little bit harder. But regardless, this time of year everybody wants to get their product to the stores by in time to order it for Christmas. So we should be able to. I think it's the December, I don't know, 15th, 14th or something like that. Yeah. You get ample time to get your order in and get it for your loved one for Christmas, or get it for yourself for Christmas. So, awesome. And the digital version is actually out today.
Right. Yep.
So, so people can go listen to it on Spotify and see if they want to buy it or not,
Well, they want to buy it. We already know that. So that's a given. And you guys are putting out some merchandise for this, like you did with Blow My Fuse. Like I've seen you have online the umbrella, which I thought was a cool throwback to when KIX used to do Cold Shower. I think you guys have like little keychains, little odds and ends. Will there be other merchandise for this?
I think there's a couple things that aren't done yet. Can't remember. I have to go look at the store. I haven't looked at the store in a couple days, and I talked to our guy the other day, and we were talking about other things, not what we were doing. But I think hoodies and I think I still have a Midnite Dynamite ashtray somewhere.
Okay.
And what else do I have? I have a shot glass with Midnite Dynamite, and I think we're going to do the album cover, because that was a good selling. We redid that years ago, and that T-shirt sold really well. So I think we're going to do that if it's not up there already. Our merch guy's really good, and he's surprised. He's never ceases to amaze me with some of the things that he comes up with that we can put our logo on. You know what I mean?
Right.
So coasters, and he had these Yeti coolers, Yeti drink things done. They're not Yeti, but whatever the lower version of Yeti is. We had that. And so yeah, I think some more merch stuff will come out. But I don't recall. I just can't recall if there's anything like, super cool other than what's already out there. But he's really good. He makes super cool stuff, man. So I would expect the answer to be yes. We'll come out with more merch, and yes, it'll be super cool. So
fair enough. So last time we spoke, because fans are never satisfied. So this just got released today, and I'm going to ask you: are you going to be doing a Hotwire release like this also?
No. So Hotwire, I have something different planned for.
Okay.
And the Hotwire doesn't need a remix. Jimmy and all those guys were always real happy with the mix on that. And Taylor Rhodes produced it, and I think that I think the story goes that Tom Werman produced it, and then Donnie fired him. Because Tom was one of those producers that barely showed up at the studio, and Donnie, I think, didn't appreciate that work ethic. And that's the story I've heard, that's why Tom got fired off that record. And so Taylor Rhodes produced it, who also produced Rocket Face Off, and I think Taylor mixed it too. Taylor and Donnie might have mixed it themselves, and that album sounds really good. I think what we'll probably do, it's also like most of the albums from that era, is not. I think it'll benefit from a mastering. I think it'll sound better and be EQ'd a little bit better, and so we're definitely going to remaster it, but we're not going to remix it. It just doesn't need it. That album sounds, fairly modern. That stacks up pretty good. So we're not going to remix it. But then there's another really special thing that I have that goes along with that record that nobody knows about, that I'm going to put out.
Awesome.
The guys in the band know about it, of course. It's gonna make it unique in terms of stacking up against Dynamite and Fuse reissues. So it'll be really cool.
Oh, you got me excited. It's usually those extras, whether it's the demos or whatever you might have in store for this. That's the stuff that
It's an
usually
extra.
gets me excited. So
It's
you
an
got me.
extra, and it's a big one.
And if I
So
know, and I'm trying to do this off the top of my head, but I think that album was released in July of '91, if I early July of '91. So
mm,
maybe July of 2021.
yeah, I don't know, man. They're
Not that I'm putting any pressure on you, Mark,
well,
but yeah,
yeah. I mean, these releases take a lot
of
of work.
course, of course,
Madeline, our manager, she does a shit ton of work for this,
hmm
and I do a shit ton of work for it.
I'm sure.
And when to jump off of Dynamite and jump into reissuing Hotwire just for the summer.
Right, it's not
By that
realistic.
time, we'll be playing again,
Right,
and so we kind of want to push Midnight Dynamite for a while. So maybe we'll do Hotwire next year.
fair enough. I'll be patient.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I want to do it this summer. I think there's just too much going on. We don't know when we're going to be playing, and
I
so
think you were just too nice to me. I would have been like, Mike, are you freaking nuts? There's not a damn chance in the world I'm
no,
doing that.
it's we thought about it because we know
Okay.
that date's coming up.
Yep,
So
yep, absolutely. So, we were talking before about the KIX live shows that you did during the year and how odd they were. And you mentioned before your Rush tribute band, Sun Dogs, right? So, have you been doing
mhm.
any shows with that band at all in the last few
Yeah,
months?
actually we have. We're actually, there's a tipping point when you have say you have a theater that holds, 3,000 people,
Hmm.
and you have to put a certain number of people in that theater or in a festival situation
Hmm.
to be able to pay a national act like KIX.
Hmm.
So, just to be blunt about it, Sundogs is a lot cheaper than KIX.
Hmm.
So we can play. In fact, 2 weeks ago we played 2 nights. We played a two-nighter at a place called the Tally Ho Theater in Leesburg, which isn't far from my house.
Hmm.
And they had, I think their limit was 173 seats.
Hmm.
So tables spaced apart,
Hmm.
typical social distancing stuff. It
Hmm.
was great. They did an awesome job with it.
Hmm.
Um, but before the pandemic, last time Sundogs played there, we sold out, and we always come close to selling it out.
Hmm. Hmm.
Excuse me. And the last time we played there, we sold it out. So we do quite well, but we're just not we don't have the same price tag as a national act like KIX
Sure.
or Slaughter or
Hmm.
Vixen or
Hmm.
any of the bands that are out there running around right now,
Hmm.
um, and doing well. And
Right.
so we don't have that kind of price tag, and so the promoter can do a two-nighter or do a single-nighter, and still make money off the ticket sales,
Hmm.
And so it's been really good for us. We have a lot of gigs. It's great,
Hmm.
and we're playing a club called Elevation 27, December 12th in Virginia Beach, and that's a good place to come see us.
Hmm.
And check out our YouTube channel. We got some great videos up there. It's Sundogs Band. Just Google Sundogs, you'll find us. And there's links to our Instagram and YouTube on our website, sundogsband.com. Yeah, we really enjoy, we're creating a Rush experience. We have
Hmm.
we have video walls, and we have videos for every song, and we're playing all the, we're presenting it in a way that, we're making sure that all of the synthesizers sound exactly the way they do on the record,
Hmm.
which a lot of Rush tribute bands just kind of brush over. They don't spend much time on getting the tones exactly right, and we play whichever guitars those guys used on the record to
Hmm.
record those.
Hmm.
Those are the guitars that we have. So we have the double necks for Xanadu.
Hmm.
We have my favorite guitar that I own is my black 77 Rickenbacker 4001,
Hmm.
and I get to play that in Rush, of course. And then
Hmm.
um, our guitar player Bob Perry actually owns one of Alex's double necks. So he had it was the it was the artist proof for the Alex Lifeson double neck reissue that Gibson put out.
Hmm.
And Bob's a guitar collector, so he was able to acquire it through collecting channels.
Mm-hmm.
And so when come see us, you see Bob play Xanadu. He's actually playing Alex's guitar, which is really cool.
Really cool. That is
Yeah.
really cool. Now, you were talking before about doing like Baby Time Bomb. It's not your favorite bass line to play. I have to imagine when you're doing Sundog shows and you're doing those bass lines, those great bass lines, and you're trying to sing at the same. That's got to be like in my mind. I don't play. I know I have guitars on the wall, but I don't play them. Right? That's got to be tough. I would think to sing those songs and play those bass lines.
It's very tough, and sometimes there are songs where I'm playing. I actually watched the videos of Geddy to see how he did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, so he's playing this with his feet, and then he'll go over and walk over to the keyboard and play this, and a lot of times it may sound difficult, but most songs, Geddy's pretty good at putting together melodies, obviously, that are rhythmly matched to what he's playing on bass. So it's not as difficult as you think.
Gotcha.
But it's some of the arrangements are mind bending, so you really have to pay attention. And then playing the bass pedals with my feet. I have 2 sets of them on stage, and so sometimes I'm singing, playing bass with my feet, or triggering samples with my feet, and or triggering videos with my feet for that matter.
Oh wow.
And then running over to the keyboard to play a keyboard part, and then using that mic for a little while, and going, so it's all the things that Geddy has to do, I have to do them too. Otherwise it's not a Rush tribute band.
Right, I was gonna say Rush fans will crucify you if you don't.
Yeah.
Right?
What's the point? We might just be playing the track in a little jazz club or whatever.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's quite difficult. It takes a long time to learn a song, because I always have to learn 3 parts. So but it's a challenge, and people say they like it, and they say we sound like Rush. So I love that people give us those kind of compliments, and we've worked hard at giving this experience. Vince, our drummer, his drum kit is an exact copy of Neil's Snakes and Arrows drum kit, set up the exact same way. It looks exactly like Neil playing the kit and all that.
Yeah.
So we try to give that Rush experience without we don't use hardly any Rush imagery. We make up all of our own videos. We try, because you could easily just throw the Starman up there and everybody, yay!
Right. Exactly.
So we try to deliver Rush in the context of our own product, which is Sundogs. It's like we have this branding that we're using to hold Rush up, to elevate Rush, right? And we could easily put, album cover symbols, an owl from Fly By Night on the front of my keyboard, right?
Exactly.
But we're just not going to do that. We have our own band brand, and what we do is we present Rush in a way that most people haven't seen before. So.
Very cool. Now, you said there's 2 shows in December that you guys already have booked. What about for 2021?
Just the 12th of December.
Oh, the 12th. Sorry.
Yeah, Elevation 27, and then I think we're working on some. These shows are popping up quick during the pandemic. So like this drive-in show, we only got it 3 weeks before it.
Oh wow.
And usually we're booked months in advance.
Sure.
Sometimes as little as 6 weeks. Sometimes with KIX, but with Sundogs, these places are trying to stay open.
Sure.
And they're looking for a affordable band that can actually draw some people, and we're fitting in this little groove between the big and the tiny,
right.
and still doing well. So so I expect there to be other shows popping up, and then we have a couple shows booked in April as well. But I expect there'll be some things that'll pop up over the winter for us.
Awesome.
So. Because like I said, we're in that Goldilocks zone of, not too expensive, not too cheap,
right,
and still draw people.
Just right.
Right, exactly. And that's what clubs are looking for right now.
Absolutely.
So it's good for us. And listen, we were playing a lot before. We didn't have any problems getting gigs.
Of course, absolutely.
This makes it a little bit, enticing for promoters to buy our band. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then on the KIX side, I know if you go online, there's a whole bunch of dates right now out there for 2021. Fingers
yep.
crossed. I think you guys are also booked on the
Fingers
Monsters of Rock cruise, right?
Yeah.
In May. Have you heard anything?
It's not going to be a cruise.
It's going to be on land at this time, right?
It's on the Dominican Republic, which is it's the same resort that we did 80s in the Sand with last year with Sammy Hagar, and can't remember who else was there, but I know Sammy was there. Beautiful resort, amazing resort. Dominica's not too far away. Southwest flies right into Punta Cana. It's not hard to get to. It's going to be a great time. I think it'll still happen. The promoters are confident that it's still going to happen, particularly if the vaccine is being pushed out partially by then.
Partially,
I think people will have a lot more confidence. And then I think there's a couple of KIX gigs in maybe the end of February, the beginning of March that nobody said anything yet, but it might be a little too soon for people to feel confident and for the governors to have lifted any attendance restrictions that they may have put in place at these places where we have to go. So we may lose a couple of gigs at the end of February, beginning of March, but we're confident by, we're just thinking middle of March. We might start to do, normal gigs as long as everybody wears a mask, and until those different vaccines get distributed to, more than just the frontline workers.
Yep, absolutely. And that's one of the things I took away from the drive-in show last week when Steve kept saying, wear your mask. It's like, we want to be able to keep doing this. So, without getting on the whole political side of that, just let's hopefully get back to having a good time, being able to do those shows safely. And I hope for your sake come March that those things can happen. I know I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, fingers crossed. Man, it's just not hard to wear a mask.
It's not. It's really not.
Just do it.
Exactly.
It's not going to kill you. It's not infringing on your rights. Just do it, man. Come on.
Agreed. Right. We all want to be back out there having a good time. You guys need to make a living. The stagehands, the people that help you guys need to make livings.
Everybody.
Let's help everybody out here.
Yeah. Just wear a mask. It's simple science. It's some of the most simplest science that even the dumbest person can grasp,
Absolutely. Well, Mark, is there anything else, whether it's Sundogs, KIX, that you wanted to kind of bring up today before we
No, I think we covered a lot today. I'm grateful first that you came out to the show. Thank you so much for driving your ass off. I wish I could have come out and said hello. I had to. My mom was there, and so I was kind of taking care of my mom.
Always be 1,000 times more important.
yeah. So, but I really wanted to. You went all that way, and I felt bad that I couldn't get out and say hi to you. But thank you for coming to the show and sacrificing your backside.
I didn't feel like it was a sacrifice. It was a great time, and I'll say this as a fan, and you could again say, Mike, shut up, you're annoying. One of these days, I hope I go to a show where you guys do get your monkeys out. I know it's never going to happen, but I'll keep hoping for it.
You never know. We played some goofy stuff. We played Body Talk. If we played Body Talk, I don't know why we wouldn't play.
For whatever silly reason, that's always been one of my favorite KIX songs. Every time I go to a show, I'm like, maybe tonight. I know it's a gazillion to 1 odds, but I'm like, maybe tonight. So I'll hold out for another 20 years.
Yeah. Okay. I'll mention it to the guys.
Yeah. And they're going to say, he's freaking nuts.
Listen, you never know what they're going to say. They might just go, Steve might go, yeah, I always thought that was, kind of a fun song. Let's just do it. It's just goofy. Let's just do it. Well, could happen like that.
If you're going to do it, then you have to send me a message or something because I'll have to fly wherever you guys are. Because I'm not going to miss that. I've been waiting 30 years.
I'll file that one away. So.
Fair enough. Well,
for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, I'm really busting chops for that. But this was a blast. Thank you again for coming on. Thank you for sharing all the information.
Yeah, no, this so soon.
Yeah, no, this is great. Thank you. And hopefully next year we can see a lot more of KIX.
Okay, great. Thank you again.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Take it easy.
All right, take it easy.
Right, bye. Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank Mark once again for spending nearly 80 minutes with me and catching us all up on everything going on with KIX and the new Midnite Dynamite Relit album. You definitely want to go check that out. I highly recommend it. As I said at the top of this also, check out Mark on Instagram at Mark Schenker. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.